Well, good morning, everyone. It's a real pleasure to be here in Singapore and introduce, I think, for the first time for many of you, NGEx Minerals, which has been one of the most exciting exploration stories in the world for the last couple of years. And through the longer history of NGEx has really proven just how much value can be created by an exploration company. So this is a model that may be new to some of you. We're not a revenue-generating company. We don't pay dividends. However, we have been able to generate very significant returns for investors over time. So the original NGEx, which started out in 2008, when I first started with the company, has made a series of discoveries. Some of those discoveries have been spun out and then subsequently acquired. And then the current NGEx holds a number of other significant projects that we'll talk about today. But the combined value creation for NGEx and its spin-out companies is north of $8 billion Canadian over that time period. So exploration can really generate very significant value. And what I want to do today is talk about what NGEx is going to do from here on out with the super exciting projects that we've got in the portfolio right now. So we're listed on the TSX, NGEx. Current market cap is around $3 billion Canadian. So like most other speakers here, I'll be making a bunch of forward-looking statements. Definitely encourage you to review those on our website. So the NGEx projects are part of what's called the Vicuña District, which is South America's newest major copper-gold district. It was discovered by the original NGEx, and then NGEx holds the last independent projects in that district. As some of you may know, the other two projects in the district were recently acquired by a combination, a joint venture of BHP, Australia's largest mining company, and Lundin Mining. And NGEx holds the remaining two projects that are outside of that joint venture. So we really are the last independent piece of this puzzle that's being put together by a couple of the world's largest mining companies. So we've got two main projects, Lunahuasi, which is a brand new discovery. We've got phase 3 drilling underway there right now. We'll talk about that in a second. This is probably the most exciting new high-grade copper-gold project in the world right now. We also have the Los Helados project, which is a much more advanced asset just across the border in Chile. The entry of BHP into the district has definitely been good for all of the players. It answers a lot of the questions about infrastructure development, and just having a big player like that in the district, I think, adds a lot of credibility to the play that we've been putting together over the last 15, almost 20 years. The little map, which we'll look at in larger format in a few slides, shows the 5 main deposits in the district. The Caserones operating mine, which is owned by Lundin Mining and JX Nippon, just to the north end of the district. Our Los Helados project, 15 kilometers to the south. Our Lunahuasi project, kind of right in the middle of the district, just across the line in Argentina. And then the Jose Maria Filo del Sol projects, both NGEx spinouts, now owned by Lundin Mining and BHP. So we're going to quickly run through our two main assets. Lunahuasi is the one that's attracted the most attention over the last couple of years, and that's because it's probably the highest grade new copper-gold discovery anywhere. There really hasn't been anything like this for quite some time, and that's what's generated our market outperformance over the last 2 or 3 years. You can kind of read the grades there for yourself. I'm not going to go through those, but just to give you some context, the average big copper mine in this part of the world, which is the source of around 40% of the world's copper, the average grade is somewhere between 0.5 and 1% copper. So when you look at these kind of numbers that you're seeing here, the 7.5%, 2.3, 5.1 over significant widths, it kind of gives you a sense that we're looking at something that's an order of magnitude better than average. Our Los Helados project, also part of the district, this is a much more advanced project with the measured and indicated resources that you see labeled there. So very significant copper, gold, and silver deposit. So as I mentioned earlier, that same map that we talked about, a little bit larger there, and then a regional location map. So we're in northern Chile here, about 1,000 kilometers to the north of the capital city of Santiago. We're in a major mining district with a lot of operations around us, including the operating Caserones mine owned by Lundin Mining. So what makes Lunahuasi unique are these three things that you see on this table. It's unique in the district, and it's a very rare kind of generational discovery. The key characteristics of it are unusual grades. You can see that in the orange column there. Some of these are kind of chronological intercepts. So the very first one is the discovery intercept, and then you can see as we've stepped out up to 1 kilometer away from those discovery intercepts, we're continuing to hit significant intervals of very, very high grades. There's also a significant scale to this. Sometimes people see high grades and they automatically think it means relatively small. That's anything but the case at Lunahuasi. There are big, long intervals that are still 2 or 3 times the average grades for this kind of deposit. And then finally, there's a very, very significant gold component here. This is primarily a copper deposit, but these gold intercepts that you see here would not be out of place at some of the highest grade gold mines in the world. So we're right now in the middle of our phase 3 drill program. This deposit was discovered just almost exactly 2 years ago, so we've done 2 phases of drilling. We're now on the 3rd. At the end of phase 2, we had tested an area with the dimensions that you see on the map, around 400 by 900 meters, and we'd tested up to 1 kilometer below surface. That red box that you see there was open in every direction. This is kind of what you see, that same red box imposed on a photograph of the area. So the area that's been tested is inside the red box, and then not going to go too much into geology, but I think you can see that the rocks outside the red box look pretty much identical to the rocks inside the red box. And that area outside is where we see the exploration upside. And that's what our drill program that's currently underway is doing. So all of that area outside of the red box that you see there is kind of that light yellow area, and that's being tested by the drill holes that are outlined in blue. So that original 400 by 900 meter area are the red holes that you can just sort of barely see in the middle there, and then the blue holes are part of the step out and extension program that's currently underway. So we've got 8 drills turning right now. We've drilled around 16,000, 18,000 meters of what's ultimately going to be probably north of 25,000 meters drilled by the end of May. And the results to date have been outstanding. They've continued to confirm this as a really significant discovery, and now we've defined similar high-grade mineralization over an area that now measures about 1 kilometer by 1 kilometer by 1 kilometer, so significantly expanding on that original area. I want to just quickly run through our second asset because it's a really important part of the overall value story for NGEx. Los Helados is significantly more advanced than Lunahuasi. It's a more typical copper deposit for this region. Average grades are around that 0.5% average that I talked about earlier. We own 69% of this project. JX Nippon, Japanese group, smelting group, is our partner on this. And that deposit is located around 17 kilometers from an operating mine owned by our sister company, Lundin Mining and JX Nippon. So much more advanced. There's close to 100,000 meters of drilling into this as opposed to the 30-odd thousand meters that we have into Lunahuasi. There's been significant historical engineering, metallurgical work. It's a big resource with the contained copper, gold, and silver that you see below. And we see the most likely development scenario for this project as some kind of integration with the operating infrastructure at Caserones. And what that means is that Los Helados would, subject to a deal, would be one of the cheapest projects to develop globally because it could take advantage of that existing operating infrastructure. The Caserones mine has around 8 years of mine life remaining. It's significantly lower grade than what we have at Los Helados, and we see Los Helados as an important way to extend the life of that existing infrastructure by decades. So NGEx has been a great value creation story for shareholders. I mentioned that at the beginning. We started out with a 40 million market cap way back in 2008. Over the years, we did a series of spin-outs. Filo Mining first, that was recently acquired by BHP and Lundin Mining for $4.5 billion. We did a subsequent spin-out of the Jose Maria project, which is now part of that BHP Lundin Mining joint venture. And then NGEx has a current, with the remaining projects that we just talked about, has a market cap of around $3 billion Canadian. So, you know, it's somewhere around $8 billion worth of value created and counting. So just to give you a sense for what an exploration company like this can do for shareholders. The NGEx share price since 2021 has significantly outperformed copper. The copper is the little blue line that kind of runs along the x-axis there. And I show this slide because, you know, what I want to illustrate is that our share price performance really hasn't had any help from the copper price. And if you look at the performance of gold companies recently, you can see that you know, when the commodity starts to move, that can really turbocharge a stock like this. But to date, you know, we really haven't benefited from that yet. And so that fuel is still something that's out there for when the copper price moves at some point in the future. So providing additional upside to investors. So, you know, it's been a great story so far, but we strongly feel that there's still a lot of value to be created here as we advance the Lunahuasi project, as we potentially look at monetizing the Los Helados project. So the way to think about value, we feel, there's been a bunch of recent transactions in the district. Those are all shown in black. We think Los Helados is directly comparable to Jose Maria. It's a significantly larger resource, it's significantly better grade. The recent BHP transaction valued Jose Maria at about 1.4 billion US. You know, we don't see any reason why Los Helados should be worth significantly less than that. Lunahuasi, slightly different deposit type, much higher grade, but we don't see any reason why that shouldn't end up with a valuation similar to the Filo del Sol project, which just went recently for 3.3 billion US. So you add up the two NGEx assets, and we see a lot of upside from our current US 2 billion or 3 billion Canadian market cap. The assets are very strategically located in the heart of a district that is now being developed by the world's largest mining company in partnership with Lundin Mining. That's going to bring in a lot of infrastructure to the district. And, you know, I think that rising tide will float all boats, including ours.